Hey everybody, Steve here with Local Level Podcast. I'm sitting here today with Dave Wietrzak and Jimmy Miks. They're doing a very interesting project that we wanted to talk about today. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. We've been working for 6 years now since public schools or schools in District 214 had school on Veterans Day. We were looking for a veterans project because there wasn't anything there because we weren't in school.
Yeah.
And we ended up, there's a long story here, but we ended up being a part of a bunch of home builds for handicap accessible homes for veterans. And now we're working on building a comprehensive veterans village. That's the long-term goal in Illinois, but we're not there yet, but we're on the way.
Working on it. Yeah.
Yes.
And no, I mean, we were talking before, we talked on the phone before, kind of pretty extensively about, what it is that you guys are doing and what your why is. So I wanted to get into that a little bit. But before we start with the actual project that you're doing, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? You guys are, in the education field and work with the local school districts. Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, Jim and I have worked together for more than 20 years together in District 214. Jim teaches within the social science English area. And I teach.
I'll talk about me.
I teach within the technology side. And through that, we've had a friendship over the years. And recently, I left Hersey High School to come over to Rolling Meadows High School. And during that time, we had kept up conversation about, things that were going on. And Jim had always had an interest in veterans, and has always been our connection.
Yeah, well, the background there, just in terms of, background and, I've been in the district for 27 years in coaching. Met Dave a long time ago, built a friendship at Hersey, and have stayed friends since. Yeah. But long story short, on Veterans Day, my drive to get into this was, my father was a Vietnam veteran. Came back from Vietnam, missing, recently passed away actually from Agent Orange. He was 100% disabled veteran.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that.
And no, thank you. Thanks for it. But it was actually good. It was peaceful. The cancer stinks. Anybody who's been through it, we could say other words, but we're on a podcast. So.
Of course. You can say whatever you want about it. We are on a podcast.
Yeah. I hear you. I get the F cancer shirts if you've been through that. But anyway, my dad was part of the 458th in Vietnam, and they were up and down rivers and things like that. He was an MP, but anyway, they were bombarded with Agent Orange.
Yeah.
So the defoliant the area. So he went in. Long story short, into the VA, and they said, "Where were you?" He said, "Oh, you were here. That was red." So, but either way, he came back with some, like a lot of the Vietnam veterans came back with some struggles. He had physical struggles and that type of stuff. He had lost some of his hair, his eyebrows, different things, due to picture in and out crazy. But anyway, I thought to myself, on Veterans Day, we can't do nothing. We got to do something. And I just got lucky in some ways. I was searching for a project, and one of my best friends, so his cousin, was, Mike Fitzpatrick, good buddy, was part of Home Builds. They were working on building a home in Georgia. And I happened to meet him at a Northwestern game because his son played football for Northwestern. He said, "Hey, you guys want to do this? You guys want in?" I said, "Yeah, we're going to partner up." And our school, Hersey, we didn't know what we were going to do. We said, let's make this happen. So we're gonna this guy sold Jason Smith handicap was gonna come from Georgia to Hersey. We didn't know what we were gonna do yet. We ended up building gingerbread houses to support him, and it built a long-term friendship. Long story short, that very next year we were building a home in Tennessee for Cody Evans, a handicap accessible home, and Dave, he's a smart cat, and he came up with the idea. He says, our students here in construction classes can build the walls. Yeah, and we'll ship them to Tennessee, and they did it.
Yeah, and at that time, what was ironic was we had started a program called Geometry and Construction, both at Rolling Meadows High School and Buffalo Grove. And Jim had called me, it must have been sometime around October, and said, "You know what, we've got this project, it's really good. Do you think there's any way our kids in the district can help support this cause for veterans?" And at that time, it was an aha moment for us because Buffalo Grove and Rolling Meadows were looking for that capstone project for kids in construction. And I said, "You know what? It was a Friday night. Let me think about it, and I'll give you a call back." And on Monday, I called Jim. I said, "We're all in." I talked with these teachers. How can we not support this cause? How can we not help our kids? And we went in. And that was, as Jim had said years ago, and through it, I mean, it was a no-brainer for us. Yeah. Here we're helping veterans. We're giving our kids that option for opportunity for social service to help out, to learn about what's going on for veterans, both active and also former. And from that moment on, I don't think we ever looked back. And as Jim had said, we worked and still have relationship with an organization called the Soldier's Journey that has been just unbelievable. A Soldier's Journey is still going strong, and their mission is to build one house every year for a veteran and his family anywhere in the continental USA that's in need. And through that application process, they go out and help these veterans. And we've partnered with them for years and have done great things with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, and a lot of them need help, not a lot of help, you know, and they definitely deserve it with the sacrifices they obviously had, and so it's really great what you guys are doing. But the component here that's extra awesome is that you're involving the kids in it. You know, that you're not only creating actual usable shelter, but you're also involving the kids in that whole process, of healing for somebody else, and that's a really important thing. Now, how have the kids been responding to that?
Fantastic. The first year we did the project, Jason Smith, he lost his legs in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
He came to Hersey and needed to deal with whether it's handicap accessibility, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, he came to Hersey and met with kids. He spoke to our different various groups that had led the project, the choir, the football team, and he told his story. And this is a guy who can, with two legs, blown off, can bench 360 pounds, right? But there's a long story to get there, and he told his story of recovery and mental health. And he said, I was depressed. I was sitting around. He said, I was eating Milk Duds and drinking Mountain Dew and basically doing nothing, feeling sorry for myself. And he told a great story. He said, and a guy rolled by me, and he had, no arms and no legs. And Jason just said, I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I got my life back on track. I stopped watching Vampire Diaries. Mm-hmm. I fought my depression with physical effort. Mm-hmm. Now, the response from the kids, it was unbelievable. He was speaking to the choir, because the choir and the football team the first year did the most to raise funds for this whole thing, which ended up being about $18,000 in a couple of weeks, which was crazy.
Wow. But
anyway, very generous people. I couldn't, this project would never happen without working with awesome people. The list is too long to thank.
Yeah.
But, anyway, I never even thought this would happen, but after the choir, after Jason told his leadership story or his recovery story to the choir as a way of saying thank you for, you guys are doing something real.
Yeah.
A couple kids came up with tears and were like, "Whoa, what's this, man?" Because he was telling a lot of funny stories, and he said, I'm gonna fight my depression." And it's interesting when you watch veterans. I just haven't done this for 6 years. I really think they're on the forefront of mental health issues that our whole culture's dealing with.
Yeah.
You look at kids and young people, and I've been doing this 27 years. I can chart it. The mental health issues have just exploded. And I think veterans are on the forefront of confronting and dealing with it. So their courage is twofold. You talk about how the kids have responded. It's been a mutual kind of a give and a take thing.
Sure.
And it's been cool for us, to see, we're not in San Diego or some of these places, or at a high school right near Great Lakes where the military is like right there. We have the Army Reserve here and some strong families. Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's been great to have that military connection from a patriotic standpoint, to teach the kids, like,
absolutely,
here's a human being that loves his or her country so much.
They're willing to give up their life.
Yep.
Sacrifice everything.
Yeah. Everything.
That's
so what
real
can we
commitment.
do?
Yeah, that's real commitment. And I don't think that there's enough of that. I think that we have gotten away from that over many years, and I don't know exactly what the reasons are, but I think that it probably has something to do with not fighting an enemy that is wearing a uniform, and knowing, hey, that's what we're doing it for. I think that it's politics is involved in a lot of things, and that's a turnoff. People think it's a video game. They just watch it on TV, and there's no real war happening. But there's real people out there doing that, and sacrificing and coming back with no legs, and PTSD and mental health problems, and and it's not just them, but it's their family and their kids, and it's generational. So it's there's just so much, and you're right. I mean, they are on the forefront. They're on the front lines, figuratively and actually. Mm-hmm. In so many ways. So it is really, really important, I think, for the youth to be involved in that in some way, and then even beyond the patriotism and all that, and just being a part of something bigger than themselves, is so important. So it's really, really great what you're doing there. And so talk to me a little bit about, I guess, how can the kids, or what is it exactly the kids are doing? You know what I mean? What are the things that they're doing in this process?
This guy should tell you the story about building, and then I'll tell you some of the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point, Steve. As you said, over the years, Jim and I have learned a lot from this project.
Back off on this a little bit.
Yeah, we've learned a lot from this project, and one is the injury have to be visible for people to have a commitment or an understanding,
Right.
and that has been something that we've had to overcome. As you said, war has changed, and these conflicts we're involved with have changed.
Yeah.
And because of that, PTSD has a greater stance in this than ever before. And for our children and our kids in our high schools to see it and understand it, sometimes it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But Jim has done a great job, with the educational component of this with his kids. But for us, it's very different for me. I approach it from the housing standpoint. Jim is focusing on, getting the awareness and the education, whereas I'm working with Buffalo Grove High School to provide these homes, whether it's a full-size home for a family, as we've done over the years, or it could be these tiny homes, which we're building right now for Nine Line Foundation in Savannah, Georgia. We're right now focused, as we have for the last year, to build additional homes for this village. And this village is designed by, in help with Savannah, Georgia, and the Nine Line Foundation to provide transitional housing.
Yeah.
And that's just our goal. And Jim and I have learned over the years that we love helping one family or one veteran by building a massive home in 7 days. It's been very rewarding for us and our kids. But we also know that there's others out there within our communities that also need help. And in trying to continue our mission, we definitely want to look to opportunities like tiny homes that are transitional housing, that provide education, provide support, provide medical, provide housing that is, again, temporary, but definitely safe and allows a veteran to get back on their feet. And that's our goal.
Yeah. And, the housing thing, and this is, it's a wider problem. I mean, outside of, just the vet community, the homeless community in general. There's two edges. There's two ends to it. There's the housing part. They need a roof over their head, but there's the mental health part. Most importantly, first and foremost, I think a lot of times is the fact that when you're in that spot where maybe it's addiction or it's trauma or maybe just some sort of mental illness, you're not even in a place. Even if you have a roof over your head, you're not going to be able to keep it or hold a meaningful job or be able to even interact with the resources that might be available to you. So the mental health component is so important there, but you have to have space for them as well. So when we were talking, you said that you're also doing, you're teaming up and partnering with people that are providing services once you actually do have these tiny homes put together. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. There's a story there. We were partnered with the Soldier's Journey Home. Soldier's Journey Home, we were actually, if you really look at it, two of the founders. And granted, just still small pieces, amazing people,
Sure.
15 states. You can't credit them enough. Just amazing people that'll teach you about life. But anyway, connecting with that, we had worked with the Soldier's Journey Home. We partnered with the Nine Line Foundation and built a home in Texas, in New Braunfels, Texas, for Sergeant Eric Morante. And so we worked with Nine Line on that project. Long story short, we were thinking, maybe we could, let's try and do one of these homes in Chicago area. We get more kids involved, doing more. That's kind of where we were heading on our end of things. And then Nine Line Foundation, they were working on with another veteran, and he lost all his support network. And they said, wait a second. They had an epiphany as a bunch of veterans, because Nine Line Foundation is, people. There's an apparel company that goes with it, but the whole purpose of that apparel company is to employ veterans. Everybody who works there as a veteran.
Sure.
So they're taking care of a lot of Savannah vets.
That's great.
But on the other side, what Nine Line discovered was, wow, this dude doesn't have any support system. So we're going to build him this really nice house, and he has no economic connections.
Right.
He's dealing with, you name it, he's dealing with it. So this is not the right thing.
Right.
So they now there are other concepts. There's many different ways that a veterans village can be conceptualized. But the Nine Line purpose is that it's transitional, and you don't stay, so you can graduate and move forward. They partner with Georgia Southern University, and they'll get some certification in hydroponic and aquaponics. So in other words, when you're done here, you can work. And you're going to be certified by the university as having this skill set, but also a part of it is in combating addiction and combating the loneliness. The vets that struggle, and even vets that don't struggle, they like to go back in their caves.
Yeah.
They like to hide, and hiding is a big part of post-traumatic stress. And one of the best parts of a veteran community is they came up with this. We'll get on each other, and it also restores the mission.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that so many veterans struggle when they come back to our society, which is really in some ways so individualized, and what are you doing for yourself, and the competition, that's a great part of things. But on the other side, from the veteran side, just from listening to the ground and being around a lot of these projects, I've seen a lot of the veterans go into depression because they miss that fierce brotherhood, sisterhood, and camaraderie.
Yeah.
And to have, like, wait a second, you're gonna, the mission is to heal each other. That's what we're gonna do here. It's like, yeah, man, and they buy in. Not that it's perfect, 'cause it's not perfect at all.
Nothing's perfect, though.
But it's messy, but it's working, and,
Yeah.
it is the wave. This is 6 years of doing this for us. So I firmly believe, when you keep that communication channel open, this is the way to go.
Well, I mean, anything that is working towards a common goal, and and helping people along the way, and bringing up these issues to the public is definitely working. It's good. It's a beneficial thing.
Well, I'm going to throw in one thing on that. We talk about the connection with the kids. We built a home with Soldier's Journey Home, and Dave did a lot of the legwork for that one in Spring Grove, Illinois.
Sure.
And Tony suffers from TBI and PTSD, and they're both severe. Great guy, but definitely, man, he fears being in public. He is terrified of crowds. His avoidance. If he can avoid something, he will avoid it. It's just part of what it is. It's part of this. It's why we're building it. Why we built him the home. But anyway, when we first were working to build for Tony, I thought, man, we have a problem, because Cody Evans and Jason Smith both had lost limbs. So it's obvious, right? The wounds are visible, and then those invisible wounds are harder to educate the public on, because people don't understand it.
Don't take it as serious.
So what happened is the kids, our HTV crowd, led by our buddy Todd Hatfield, who's a fantastic media guy, and his group now, the Dispatch, they went and they hooked up with, there's a local organization in Chicago that's fantastic called Road Home.
Okay.
It's one of the best post-traumatic stress disorder organizations in the world at Rush University.
Sure.
I went down and visited everything, the lights, the sound, every single square inch of that place is researched and designed to heal post-traumatic stress. It's incredible. Will Beiersdorf, who's actually a local guy around here, and his wife, Mary Beth, they started Salute. I mean, they are a super couple. They're, in terms of veteran healing, they're the all-stars. But anyway, long story short, the kids went down, did interviews, made a video, and showed it to the entire student body. Mm-hmm. So before Tony Chobanoff showed up at Hersey High School, or showed up anywhere near us, all the students had somewhat of an idea about what post-traumatic stress was.
Well, that's a win in itself. Yeah,
That's huge.
Just identifying it, being able to understand what it is, that it exists, is a big step. And so we talked about the mental health, and that's a huge thing. But when you get somebody into therapy and actually working it, and on the road to recovery, like you said, they are temporary homes. So there is that component where you got to get on your feet, you got to pull yourself together, and start on a career or whatever you're going to do to get going. So you have career pathway programs. You touched on a little bit with the hydroponics and all that. How does that exactly work, and how are these things? How many people? I guess, is there a limit to the amount of people that can be served with these programs? How does this whole thing work?
With regards to career pathways, I mean, he's got a strong connection right here.
Okay.
Yeah, career pathways are very big in District 214. Mm-hmm. And District 214 from Buffalo Grove High School to Elk Grove High School, and also East and West. Our career focus for the last 5 or 6 years is to have students identify what their careers will be when they enter high school. And our complete goal behind that is to have students explore and find out and research and study things that are important to them, so that when students leave high school, we just don't send them out to study at a university with no goal or no idea, accumulate debt, spend precious years of their lives trying to figure things out and maybe don't return or don't graduate. So in our district, we believe in career pathways, and we want them to emphasize their interest, whether it be medical or construction or information and computers or graphics or culinary, you name it. We want them to study in these areas. And through this project, it's allowed geometry and construction to flourish, to actually have a capstone project that allows those kids to not only build and learn about construction, electrical and plumbing, but to apply it and also provide somebody a transitional home, which it can't be any better than that.
Yeah.
So through career pathways, it's our goal to provide meaningful activities, competitions, and projects so kids can further their studies and interest.
Okay, and then that carries over to the vets as well. So what are some of the projects that I guess what are some of the programs that you have available for teaching vets to get back on their feet and back into society?
That the biggest part there in terms of would be, from Dave's in there, this kid's building the walls and being involved with it and connecting personally. And I mentioned Todd, his kids have traveled to Texas, to Tennessee. They cover the stories and meet the people building. And I mean, the Soldier's Journey Home, the president was, a 9/11, in the towers captain. I mean, these are amazing people that they're getting to meet and connecting. But I would say the strongest piece of the veterans getting back on their feet is it's chipping in. I mean, Soldier's Journey Home is tied. You have 15 people from 15 states that show up and work on that project. The Nine Line Foundation, you'll have people from all over the country working on that project. Well, we're right now, we call it building the team. We're building the team to work something here in Illinois. There's a group called nonprofit called Project Headspace and Timing. Eric Peterson reached out to us because we were part of Soldier's Journey Home. We've been meeting with him. He was just in Mount Prospect. He's coming to Hersey High School on December 13th to talk to kids about why we have a need for this and why it works.
Sure.
And why it works is the biggest thing again would be, and I'll go back to my drive from this. Is simple. People say, where do you get the energy for this? I said, well, my father was a Vietnam veteran and they didn't have the support. They were told not to don't put that you were a veteran on your job application.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. I mean, you name it. It was there. There was a kind of a barrier, which is kind of strange. Right. And I don't think the culture did a lot to create a narrative that did justice to that group. So for me, it's so great to see, veterans, for example, our kids, some Hersey kids, were just FaceTiming Rocco Rosero, who's in Afghanistan, Illinois, who's a Hersey grad, or he's in Afghanistan, Illinois. He's in Afghanistan, but from Illinois and from the Hersey cafeteria. And they sent him a bunch of care packages.
Jeez.
Right. And I don't know what was going on during the Vietnam era, but I wasn't feeling that good.
Wasn't that?
And I think that's just really cool. So in terms of veterans getting back on their feet, you have the practicality of what Dave's crew would do. Like, hey, this is a ton of money and time, and these guys do a great job. There's a lot of expertise that goes into the building and the classes, and for those kids to feel like, wow, we did that.
Yeah.
But on the veterans also know, look at American public high schools. We only have a few institutions that almost all Americans can relate to. Yeah. One of them is a public high school. Mm-hmm. Right. It's very. We don't have a lot of things in common in some ways. We can talk about sports and we can talk about some music, but we can talk about high school. Yeah. And for the veterans to know, like, wow, there's these high schools, right? This have my back, and there is something magical about the teenagers. And I've noticed this. These guys will come in and tell their stories. And Tony told a story, and he suffers from severe PTSD. And I said, man, I don't know. He said, you just trust these kids. Lack of trust is a huge part of post-traumatic stress. Yeah. Not trusting the public to understand your suffering, so therefore I go in my cave.
Yeah.
And he said, what I think part of it is? The kids there's nothing corporate about it.
Yeah.
The kids aren't taking pictures, but they're taking pictures because it's like they think these guys are heroes, and they are. And they're not taking pictures for
sincere. It's a real actual thing. It's not a promo.
Yes, so there's a healing aspect to it. Like when these kids came up in tears to talk to Sergeant Smith about, I'm going to fight depression now, I think he realized none of us were expecting it.
Yeah.
But when that happens and you get those kind of connections, I mean, Eric Morante came from Texas, and in front of the whole school, he's a boxer. He's actually fighting to be a Paralympic boxer, but jumping rope on one leg and doing all these different things. It was really cool because a lot of the kids, they joined his social media site. Like, dude, you're amazing, right? So I think that social if you think about that during Vietnam, that wasn't going to happen.
No.
So to have the social the communalization of all that suffering turned
Yeah.
into like some cheering
Well,
from these kids.
it gives them a reason. It gives them. It's a payoff in some sense. You know, it's this is what I fought for, or this is whatever sacrifice that they had is actually for a reason, and they can see it. You know, and it's actually meaningful and real and positive for the next generation, which is, you know, why they went to war. You know,
Right.
and that's the whole point. Now, as educators, you know, and being, you know, so closely, you know, in line with the community and the kids and all that, this generation is, I mean, they say it every time that the generation is, oh, it's going down, it's going to the wayside, you know, but I think it's just a little different. You know, there's a different dynamic with the social media, and you touched on isolation, which is very true. People isolate. People are behind screens. The actual social currency that people have nowadays is not the same as it used to be. But I think that people really do want to have something that they're all fighting for together. I think that there's just so many fronts that are, you know, everybody's trying to either do YouTube or they're trying to,
Right.
you know, play Fortnite or whatever it is, be the best at, you know, there's a million different things. There's no unifying factor, but everybody wants to be a part of something. And, you know, so what do you think about the work ethic? What do you think about the education system, and how it's changed over the past, I guess, 10 to 15 years? Because
No, the way the kids, I hear what you're saying. There's been a shift in the way the kids view themselves and the way their relationships to society have changed.
yeah,
You know, in some ways too, you look at a more of a turn inward, which is actually kind of scary
Yeah,
in
it
some
is.
ways, because I think that's a huge reason is that kids have so many mental health issues is
Yeah.
lack of connection.
yeah,
And you talk about that sense of belonging. It's actually frightening when you think about, man, belonging to things larger than yourself in some ways is freedom from stress of having to be perfect.
yeah.
And you look at because you're not alone. And the perfectionism that's out there that's causing a lot of mental health issues.
Social media is probably one of the biggest parts of that whole thing, and it's the isolation and the fact that, you know, the social media is just a little snapshot of the perfect dinner or the perfect
Right.
vacation, and you know, everybody's looking at everybody else's perfect thing, and they're looking at their life and they're saying, well, why should I even try? You know, and that's depression.
Yes.
That's what happens.
And with that, Steve, you know, through these projects, regardless if it was a bigger home that we built where, you know, or more than 400 people donated their time over 7 days. They came from all over the country to demonstrate their passion and their interest, the support of a veteran, to a tiny home where companies come out such as Home Depot and Bosch have helped us locally in building and having their employees work side by side with our students to demonstrate what we believe is that missing trait.
Yeah.
You know, we know that people do care. We know that people are giving, but often I don't believe this generation sees it with their own two eyes. They hear about it and they've heard that it's happened, but to be a part of something greater than them is a massive factor in a project like this.
Yeah, and I had my loss of thought for a minute, but I have it back. And what I was getting at was the fact that you are doing something that 10, 15 years ago the school districts weren't doing, which is actually helping to identify what people are actually interested in, as opposed to just cookie cuttering in every different subject and just hoping it works out. Because that's not how people learn. You know, people are interested in what they're interested in. Obviously, it's important to be exposed to different things, but you're not going to get great results out of forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do. You know, outside of having to read and write and, you know, be able to add. You know, there's art and there's building, there's trades, there's actual real skills that drive the economy. You know, besides philosophy, which is great, but there's a, you know, you can't, if everybody's a philosopher, nothing's happening. You know, you're just daydreaming. So what you're doing is so important on so many different fronts. Well, how has that changed? How did you guys get to that over the past 10, 15 years? And where is that going?
You talking 214 and kind of
Yeah, I
contextualizing
guess
the project?
where you guys are at.
That's an interesting question because, we've changed our focus, but nowhere along the line have we sacrificed anything.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, we were building houses for veterans and their families, which was awesome. We wouldn't take any of that back.
Yeah.
But, our focus now to help larger groups, such as these tiny homes in transition, and try and support and help a lot more in volume, has been a goal. And not that we're all about volume. We want a quality program that helps provide medical, vocational support, gets these veterans to be taken care of as individuals and not large groups. We've also worked with VA hospitals and trying to identify veterans and working within our communities, and it's very difficult to do. So by trying to work with an organization like the Nine Line Foundation, it's been very beneficial for us as far as our fundraising and support of our programs goes, and also people with specialties. Jim and I are not doctors by any means.
Yeah.
We work with people within our communities. We identify the best services we can provide people, and we do the best we can by them.
Mm-hmm. And, specifically moving away from the particular project as educators, being in the district, what have you, going back to the question, like as far as getting kids on the right track, as far as figuring out, identifying their skills and their strong points and things that interest them. How does that work? What have you seen? What are some of the success stories? What are some of the things that maybe you can do better?
Well, part of it is you look at the world is changing in a major way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's artificial intelligence changing how things work.
Yeah.
Educational system has a lot of thinking to do about the future.
Absolutely.
About what jobs will be there and what jobs won't be there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot going on there, and that's so complex it might be over our heads. But
It's over everybody's heads.
Either way, it's
good to take a crack at it.
It's on the radar.
Yeah.
And all I can do is say you go back to the human side of the project. Say we are working again with Project Headspace, and there's a Veterans Village in Racine. To get something going here in Illinois. Right now, Project Headspace and Timing are looking down by Bourbonnais. If that facility gets going the way it's supposed to go, as Dave would say, it would involve healthcare. It would involve the arts. There'd be an arts center. These guys here, Creative Vets, this is a Chicago-based organization started in Illinois and also tied to Nashville. They do music and art therapy. Mm-hmm. But you'd have to have an economic sector to educate regarding economics. You have to have people dealing with legal stuff. You name it. The entire, what it takes to be a successful human being to grow and transition back to strength, somehow it's like a micro society.
Yeah.
And it's a healthy one because it's a place of growth. And from an educational perspective, looking at 214, it really is important that we keep, I guess, the practical application of any theory we have about how this is going to benefit our kids. You can never go wrong with, good old critical thinking and, being an awesome thinker,
learning how to think.
And that also is just enhanced when you tie it to something specific. Mm-hmm. So, for example, Dave's kids in geometry construction. Hey guys, we're teaching you you can use this somewhere else.
Yeah.
But by the way, this is somebody's house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You could always go and continue your education and get a degree for something, to get that land that big job or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. But when you have a skill, you know how to put together a house or whatever it is, whether it's just hammering shingles on a roof. You can always do that. That's never going away. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but that work ethic right there of actually doing it, and then at the end of the road you come out and you can look at that house and be like, I put the roof on that house. Now you have self-worth, mm-hmm. And that is what everybody needs. Everybody needs self-worth. That's how you get out of the mental illness type of thing because of the depression. The depression is being lost, mm-hmm. feeling like it's hopeless. That's why people are depressed most of the time. I mean, the root of it, I figure. I mean, I think everybody's been there. But being able to connect those two pieces, because you're talking about the same thing from two different worlds. You're talking about the kids, and you're tying them to people that have been out and seen the most horrific things in humans can see. Mm-hmm. And, and you put those things together in a way that's actually healthy, and you help and you let them help each other. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know that you had the family thing. I know that you're dealing with the kids. The building. How did you guys put that together, and where do you see this going 10 years from now?
That's a great question, Steve. Right now, we're living in the moment for working with 9Line, also, as Jim had said, Project Headspace here in Illinois. Our goal, my ultimate goal, and I think I speak for both of us when I say that, I would appreciate seeing a Veterans Village model here in the northwest suburbs at some point.
So what are the steps that you have to take to get that, and what do you need from the people listening?
Yeah, what we need from the people listening out there is very clear. In the state of Illinois, it's had its challenges to build a facility like that in the state of Illinois. What we would like to see is, as we've seen before, is generous individuals within our communities come forward with possible property, that might be available to us. When we built a house in Spring Grove just a few years ago, the volunteers from all over the country were absolutely amazed at the generosity of people in the Chicagoland area. When houses are built, typically, around the country, you're lucky to get a 30% donation of materials, and hopefully the other 70% comes from financial donations. Yeah. And when it was built here in Chicago, we were floored that it was the complete opposite. There were well over 75 companies and individuals, and I won't list them all today because some asked not to be labeled or identified, but 70 companies within the Chicagoland area that donated 70% of the value of this home. And did it without even much thought. I mean, it was just instant that why wouldn't they do that?
What type of materials are being donated? Are you talking about physical, lumber, and is that the main thing? Now, an idea that I had, I don't know if you've even thought about this, was, there's a lot of things being torn down. There's construction companies that are throwing a lot of this stuff away, and when you're taking down a whole house. Yeah. And you're building a tiny house, you could use a lot of that stuff and probably make a lot out of it.
Yeah, you could. And we've talked about that. We've also had some generous donations do things like that. And we've also worked with Habitat for Humanity. If we had an excess of materials, we'd be more than willing to share with them as well. But going forward, we would love to see a facility in the Chicagoland area that could service the many vets that we have. That would be an ultimate goal of ours in the next upcoming years.
You have to have as well, like down by Bourbonnais is where Eric Peterson's looking at Project Headspace and Timing. This guy did 5 tours. Wow, some as a warrior, some as a medic. Wow. And the drive is something fierce.
Yeah.
He said, I heard Eric said, I have a lot of drive here. He's studying to get his PhD in psychology. One of his best friends and they've all lost friends to suicide. Is to create a facility to prevent it. Yeah. He was literally driving around his area, giving out beer and cards and things to homeless vets. He said, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I just brought the guy a 12-pack and said, we're thinking of you. And they told me, stop bringing these guys beer. He said, I don't know what to do. So, but he said, he's a really, really smart, charismatic guy.
Yeah.
And you need something like that as well. You need the heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And he said, we get this thing going. I'll be the driver. I'll make sure this thing stays functioning and floating, and you need the Costco's, you need you want donations. It really, you look at it long term. I mean, I think 9Line can speak to this. It's better off if in some ways if you have the government out of some of this.
Oh, of course.
Because then there's some autonomy, and there's a way that veterans can shape it the way they want to. Yeah. Not that the government can do a lot of good, but initially getting going. You have someone like an Eric Peterson with 5 tours who was a medic, a warrior, you name it, he's seen it all. Yeah. But also behind it all is that kind of healing the unseen wounds, right? Mentality. Yeah. That's driving this whole thing. Because a lot of these people, you're not going to have a lot of people in wheelchairs in this kind of situation. Of course, we want to have some handicap accessibility. Yeah. But a lot of this is going to be post-traumatic stress. Yeah. 30% of vets who come back are dealing with it. We still are dealing with 20 to 22 a day of suicides. Yeah. And that's what these guys are absolutely dedicated their lives to. So, hey, we can help build it, but then in terms of fueling it into the ages, you got to have somebody like that who's just relentlessly supportive.
Well, that's I mean, they're warriors. That doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the community here, I mean, if we look at the local focus, I know that the goal here is to, ultimately get something in Illinois. But if it's anywhere, really, if you're helping anybody, it's important. And then, we're helping the kids, obviously, just kind of working and doing something productive. So that's great. But as far as the local community, the people in Rolling Meadows and Arlington Heights and Mount Prospect and Des Plaines and Schaumburg and all of the different places, where can they go? Who do they need to contact to send you either money or volunteer to sign up to get more information? Where can they go, and what can they do now that'll actually help you today?
The best place to start with that in terms of Illinois would be our hub here in this area is the schools. And Hersey High School, Rolling Meadows High School. Just for me, it's jim.miks, M-I-K-S, at d214.org. It's my school email. That's been our heartbeat around here, has been the public schools. That would be the place to go. We're both, we've been members and founders of all these other organizations, but for right now, or, there's an organization you can contact called Project Headspace and Timing. It's Illinois based. And they are, heart set on hey, if someone said right now, hey, we got some land for you in that area.
Yeah.
Eric Peterson will be up here in a heartbeat, right? So, because we're close enough. Right. They're one of the goals is that can people get to work and the stuff like that. So this area would be amazing because there's jobs everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So and then Dave's email.
Yeah, and Steve, definitely, we're getting ready for our build for this coming spring. So we're in preparation of purchasing materials and taking on any type of donations that'll support this cause. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, Jim gave you the email. I'm going to give you a phone number. It's 847-718-5756. Again, that's 847-718-5756. My first name's Dave. Reach out to me if there's any way you'd like to get involved, whether it's through supportive materials, donating time, you have any ideas, or you just want to support our cause.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, everybody that's listening, everybody has a story or knows somebody connected to, somebody that has faced depression or been a vet or been wounded or has, that in their family. And, if you have it, give it, help out. And that's what it's about.
Yes.
And everybody can help. Don't be surprised whether it's with, for example, we had a fundraiser a couple weeks ago and a lady was a musician for the Navy. Well, guess what? To do these, we actually have to have parties. We have to have people get together to connect, to network, to make this happen. And you have to build tons of friendships. So whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in law, whether you're in construction, business, you name it, education, we need everybody. Yeah. Religion, we need everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also have two upcoming fundraisers that are just around the corner. One is going to be mid-December, as Jim had said. We do a gingerbread build. And, we do that with high schools. We do it within the community of Buffalo Grove, Arlington Heights, and Rolling Meadows. So if there's any interest to help support the cause, whether it be a donation or you want to get involved in the actual build, that's available to anybody within the community. And then next Memorial Day, we're looking to plan a big event with Harley Davidson and reps here, being sponsored up in Palatine. So definitely a great way to give back as well. If you're into motorcycles and you're into veterans, what's more symbolic than Memorial Day at Harley Davidson and sponsoring with a big barbecue? So please consider that as well.
Yeah. I just had Jeremy Balick on from Palatine Harley recently. So that'll be great. Definitely check that out. A fundraiser, whatever you guys can do, and even if it's just calling a friend or asking a friend, to listen or call, whatever. That's all. It takes a village to help with these things. It's nobody's getting rich off of this.
No,
right?
Nobody makes a dime.
Yeah.
9-Line Foundation, no one makes a dime.
A Soldier's Journey.
No one
People
makes a
take their
dime.
vacation time. That great group of 75 individuals we know, they take their 2 weeks of vacation time, travel on their own dime. They sleep in hotels. They work 12, 14 hours a day. Yeah. They don't want anything in return.
And it's a lot of fun as well. You have a lot of fun. There's some. We had some friends from Louisiana. They make some awesome Cajun food for everybody, and it makes some jambalaya. A lot of firefighters.
Yeah.
And these are the guys who cleaned up Katrina. And you have the 9/11 crowd from New York. But you put all those people together, The spirit's incredible. It's a lot of fun. You make a lot of friends. That's part I can't even explain.
Yeah.
You build some lifelong friendships doing this, and when everybody's working for free, the spirits are high.
Yeah.
There's organization, and there's structure, and there's do what you're told, but there's no boss. So it's really it's all for the cause. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's. I mean, people that haven't ever really been involved in projects like this type of thing, collective kind of goals. It's so rewarding. You guys are doing something great all around, and if you haven't done something like this, if you've been on the fence, you want to do something, but you don't know how to get in, you don't know how to start, here's your opportunity. So, give these guys a call. As you can tell, it's a good cause, and we definitely are glad to have you doing this here. So I'll put all the description and all that stuff below. We'll definitely link up to everything. Do you have a website or anything right now, or what's the best website?
We have in terms of fundraising or connecting with us, or
fundraising, I guess, would probably be the best.
Right now for fundraising, there is a group rev that I can get you a link.
Okay.
And it's tied. It tells the story what the kids are doing. I send you a little video about it. Shows the kids building over at Dave's school.
Yep.
There's
Yeah.
Construction there.
Perfect.
I'll get you that link, and then the group rev has how to donate to the 9-line, right to the Veterans Village that we're currently helping.
Great. And now let's move away from this a little bit, because I was curious. We were having a little talk about just the kids, staying away from the other stuff, just talking about what you guys do on a daily basis with the kids, and at the school level. What is it that made you decide to get into education?
Well, I'll go first. When I was in high school, as there's certain teachers that have a greater impact on you.
Yeah.
And I had one that really was really important to me. Made a big impact.
Yeah.
Had that caring personality, had that interest to, not only see you through high school, but really want to see you be successful after high school. And because of that, I always loved construction. I always like working with my hands. I always like working with people. And he said to me one time, I'll never forget it, must have been maybe junior year, and working on a project, and said, "What are you going to do?" And I go, "I don't know." And he goes, "Have you ever considered teaching?" And, there's the old line of those that can do work and those who can't teach. And at that point, I was like, "Why? I never thought about that." And, at that moment, I really did think about it, like, wow, that would be really cool to work with kids and do the things you love. And from there, I really never looked back.
Yeah.
Went to school and didn't change my major, as though some kids do these days. And, shortly after that, here I found myself, sitting at a university up near Minneapolis, St. Paul, and that program director there said, "It's time to student teach. Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Oh, I need to go home since I'm paying for this." And he said, "Have you ever heard of District 214? And I said, "Where's that at?" And when he told me, I go, "I know where that's at." And I came back and visited, the district and many schools. And, after that week of going around, I found Rolling Meadows High School, and they said, "We'd love to have you." And I said, "I'd love to be there." And, after I was done student teaching, sure enough, as I'm walking out the door, they said, "A job appeared. Would you like to stay?" And I stayed, and here I am 24 plus years later. Jeez. In a district that I love, in a district that's innovative, in a district that cares for kids, and a place that really never says no if it's right for kids.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
That's great.
Top that.
For me, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I used to think, oh, maybe I'll do something in communications, but I had no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Right? Who knows? You're going to be, I don't know. I didn't have any passion for anything at that point. As a freshman in college, I had passion for social life, you could say. But I did sit and think. I remember thinking, man, what do you love to do? And I've always loved stories and read. I'm an English teacher.
Yeah.
And, you couldn't get me out of the mythology section in grade school. And I thought, I want to be an English teacher.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it was just like that light went off. I'm like, this is purpose. This is great.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So I'm gonna spend my time talking with some great kids about great books. And that to me had great value. And I've been doing it for 27 years and haven't regretted a second of it. I didn't want to do a job that I remember telling myself, I can't be the guy sitting in the cubicle.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be the guy who has to show up to and sell copiers or something like that.
I know what you mean.
I can't do that, man, because I'll get in too much trouble.
Yeah.
I can't do it. So this I could do, and I felt good about it, and still do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys are obviously committed to what you guys are doing, and positive impact all around. So hats off to you. And there's warm and fuzzy, but then there's also the rough side of things. Over a couple decades of teaching kids, you've had some home runs, and I'm sure there's been some rough spots. What are some of those rough spots?
Man, the good far outweighs the bad, in saying that. Have there been some tough times? Yeah. I think we've seen it in the last 10 years since the economic turn in our country. We've really seen some things change our communities, and not just here in District 214, but across our state and our nation. We've seen increase of homelessness, increase to a level that we're just not used to.
Yeah.
Students that require and need free and reduced lunch and other assistance at school, just because families are having a tough go of it right now. And, seeing those things, it's been difficult to watch. I understand it. But when we do projects like this, knowing that kids can gain skills that could change their lives, it's what it's all about. If kids don't see it and kids don't know what it's about, they really can't dream it.
Well, they say teach a man to fish. I mean,
Right.
That's what you guys are doing. Yeah, I kind of have a different perspective a little bit. I guess dual, because I went to Chicago Public Schools and I went to 214, so I got both of them. So there's definitely a big difference, and things have changed a lot in the city of Chicago. When I was in school, it was pretty rough, but that economic thing, dealing with poverty and people that don't have the supplies and the structure at home that other kids have, that has to be really rough to see. What does 214 do in those situations?
The district does a lot, whether it's taking care of things from the food and different things like that, and we have a strong network of social workers.
Yeah.
And people that can deal with some of that stuff into the grit, right? And I would say also, from an educational perspective, trying to be aware of some of those changes.
Yeah, we also have a foundation that's part of District 214 right now that was created a few years back, and that foundation has been very supportive of kids with their needs. Kids that want to take tests but can't afford to pay those fees. Kids that need that support at home for other projects and programs, and maybe don't have the funding to participate. And if they don't have the funding, they don't participate. And as you said earlier, it's a changing moment in their lives.
Yeah.
So we try to provide opportunities to all, and try not to let that economic barrier get in the way any more than it has to.
Yeah. I mean, and it's such a crucial time when you have the opportunity where the kids are coming every day, and you have them, and they're going to be in this place. That's your shot. Once they drop out, or they phase out, graduate, whatever, and they're stuck in limbo, that's when things get rough, and there's no support structure. I think that role model figure. I mean, you guys, for a lot of people, divorced parents, single parents out there, where there is no father figure. There is nobody, there to kind of show them how to, do some of these things, work with their hands, or, whatever. I mean, sure, there's plenty of, great female, caretakers and things like that. But, it's important to have that male figure. And I think that when I was growing up, it was important for me, to kind of have that support structure. Do you guys feel that over the years? Do you have any examples of that?
It's there. You see it. I coach as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even recognize it.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's definitely there. And sometimes there's a vacuum. You don't even realize that it's you never replace the parent, but sometimes you realize, wow,
Yeah.
there might be some issues in the background there, that if you can be a positive human being and just let that kid know you got some strength, some elders that support you, that goes a long way.
Definitely.
And you were talking about challenges too. It's interesting too when you look at our society. Sometimes whether it's underparenting or sometimes it's overparenting.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of kids who have not been allowed to fail at anything.
Huge thing, yeah.
And you look at that, and from a teaching perspective, it drives you insane.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, we really want your kids to learn. Like, think about it, fundamentally, learning. What
Yeah.
has to happen? Failure. And if perfectionism, which, and you look at the kids, and I'm thinking, man, you didn't invent this cultural narrative, but you're in it.
Yeah.
And your mental health is really suffering because you're also, you're trying to do some things that you can't do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's impossible to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's joyful to make mistakes and collaborate as well. You know, some of that perfectionism causes more isolation.
Yeah, definitely.
And having parents, I mean, I've gone to, like, with my emails with parents, they're just, hey, listen. And our parents are great, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while, I get the one, I just have to respond and say, listen, your son or daughter, they're a teenager. They can work this out with me.
Yeah.
I have full faith that your kid can come in and we can talk.
Yeah.
And I really want your kid to know that.
Yeah,
That-
so important.
Because they're leaving here. In 5 years from now, I'll ask a parent, 5 years from now, where does this kind of conversation go?
Mm-hmm.
With seniors, I'm like, listen, your kid can potentially vote and go into the military.
Yeah.
I'm not solving this with you. Your kid's coming in. Like, I can't. You have a need being fulfilled here.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, I know it's codependence or something or what it is, or like parents, and to forgive them in some ways, it's like this culture's, you're not doing your job if you're not hyper parenting. But man, that's escalated. And you can start to read the culture, having done it 27 years, where you can start to feel some of that lessening.
Sure.
And that's good for everybody.
Yeah, that's
you know?
right.
Well, the under or the over parenting really has a lot to do with stress and teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people value things a little different, and like, I think you're right. I think it is kind of receding a little bit. You know, for so many years it was all just like, you gotta get your GPA to this. You gotta
Right.
get into the college. You have to do this. You know, and you know, for a lot of people that's not the right move.
For the large majority, that's not the right move.
Taking on all that debt,
Right.
not really having the skills to even understand what you're signing, you know, and you know, putting yourself under enormous pressure, constantly not developing any social thing, not really getting any usable skills right now,
Right.
not having that self-worth, and then throwing yourself out there to the wolves to get something that everybody else has too.
Right.
That's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Well, that's the character piece too. Is like gets when the kids become resumes, the character piece gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And if that's there, it all kind of seems to work. But that's what, you know, chiseling of characters. Like, I want to say to the parents, man, you've worked so hard, or you care for your kids, or you haven't cared enough for whatever you've done. But at some point, you got to let that kid go and grow.
Yeah.
You know,
Failure
Right.
is the best. You know, I mean, I brought this up earlier. You know, you make steel through fire. You know,
Yep.
that's how it works. And yeah, so important. But you know, with what you guys are doing, you know, putting together all the pieces, and you know, building something from the ground up. You know, not for profit, but for, you know, truly believing in it. You know, building other people up. You know, so powerful, so great, and that's why it's an honor to have you guys on. And you know, we'll definitely do whatever we can to promote you as much as possible. You know, have
Thank
you guys
you.
back on whenever
Thanks.
you have something.
Yeah.
And again, we'll put the link in the description below, guys. Definitely support them. You know, and follow them. You know, keep up to date. You know, don't forget it. You know, don't let it go in one ear out the other and think somebody else will do it. It's up to you. You know, people. If you believe in what they're doing, do something yourself. Don't put it on somebody else. Take action today. But Dave and Jim, I really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you on. And you know, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you for taking the opportunity to talk with us today and learn all about what we're about. And hopefully, as you said, you know, take action. And people are out there. If there's anything you can help, suggest, and in any way, we're definitely grateful for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks a ton, and we really appreciate the time and the effort and promotion.
Yeah.
I would say it'd be awesome if you could get these guys, the creative vets, they're Chicago-based, actually. They're going to be at Hersey High School on December 13th to
Great.
talk to kids about art and music therapy and healing PTSD. And Eric Peterson from Project Headspace and Timing. 5 Tours is going to be up talking to students where the kids are actually going to honor them.
Do you guys do video of this stuff?
We will make a video of it, so
Okay.
we'd love to get you
Yeah.
involved, and it'd be great if you could use some of your skills. We have some kids working on learning to do podcasts.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
We'd love to have you over.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely be in touch. I mean, we're right next door. So, yeah, again, I really appreciate it. Great cause, and we'll definitely leave it at that, and we'll see you again soon.